Tesya, as if it is one word. Tesya, like that. Bhuyan Naradeva, not Bhuyat Naradeva. The words are Bhuyat and Naradeva, but combination is Bhuyan Naradeva, like that. So once again, the first line. Kamassa Bhuyan Naradeva Tesya Putrya Samamnaya Vidhau Pratitaha. This line, there are no combinations at all. No combination. So it's simple. Same thing we will say in the complete line. Putrya samamnaya vidhau pratitaha ka. It is not ka. It is ka in the sandhi. The word is kaha, eva. Kaha and eva becomes ka eva, like that. Te tanayam na adriyeta. Now this na and adriyeta becomes nadriyeta, like that. Ka eva te tanayam nadriyeta. Svaya eva. The combination becomes swayaiva. A and A becomes I. These are all rules of Sanskrit grammar called sandhi. Kantya Kshipatim Iva Shriyam Swayaiva Kantya Kshipatim Iva Shriyam Kamassa Bhuyan Naradeva Tesya Putrya Samamnaya Vidhau Pratitaha Ka eva te tanayam nadriyeta Svayaiva Kantya Kshipatim Iva Shriyam Kamassa Bhuyan Naradeva Tesya Putrya Samamnaya Vidhau Pratitaha Ka eva te tanayam nadriyeta Svayaiva Kantya Kshipatim Iva Shriyam Kamassa Bhuyan Naradeva Tesya Putrya Samamnaya Vidhau Pratitaha Eva te tanayam nadriyeta Svayaiva Kantya Kshipatim Iva Shriyam Kamassa Bhuyan Naradeva Tesya Putrya Samamnaya Vidhau Pratitaha Ka eva te tanayam nadriyeta Svayaiva Kantya Kshipatim Iva Shriyam. Matajis, anybody wants to chant? Okay. Word for meaning. Kamaha, desire. Saha, that. Bhuyad, let it be fulfilled. Naradeva, O king. Te, your. Asya, this. Putrya, of the daughter Samamnaya Vidha in the process of the Vedic scriptures Pratitaha recognized Kaha who Eva in fact Te your Tanayam daughter Na adriyeta would not adore Swaya by her own Eva alone Kantya bodily luster Kshipatim excelling Iva as if Shriyam ornaments. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Translation. Let your daughter's desire for marriage, which is recognized in the Vedic scriptures, be fulfilled. Who would not accept her hand? She is so beautiful that by her bodily luster alone, she excels the beauty of her ornaments. Please repeat this translation after me. Let your daughter's desire for marriage, which is recognized in the Vedic scriptures, be fulfilled. Who would not accept her hand? She is so beautiful that by her bodily luster alone she excels the beauty of her ornaments. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Kardama Muni wanted to marry Devahuti in the recognized manner of marriage prescribed in the scriptures. As stated in the Vedic scriptures, the first class process is to call the bridegroom to the home of the bride and hand her to him in charity with a dowry of necessary ornaments, gold, furniture, and other household paraphernalia. This form of marriage is prevalent among higher class Hindus even today and is declared in the Shastras to confer great religious merit on the bride's father. To give a daughter in charity to a suitable son-in-law is considered to be one of the pious activities of a householder. There are 8 forms of marriage mentioned in the scripture, Manusmriti, but only one process of marriage, Brahma or Rajasika marriage, is now current. Other kinds of marriage, by love, by exchange of garlands, or by kidnapping the bride, are now forbidden in this Kali age. Formerly, Kshatriyas would, at their pleasure, kidnap a princess from another royal house, and there would be a fight between the Kshatriya and the girl's family. Then, if the kidnapper was the winner, the girl would be offered to him for marriage. Even Krishna married Rukmini by that process, and some of his sons and grandsons also married by kidnapping. Krishna's grandson kidnapped Duryodhana's daughter, which caused a fight between the Kuru and Yadu families. Afterwards, an adjustment was made by the elderly members of the Kuru family. Such marriages were current in bygone ages. But at the present moment, they are not possible because the strict principle of Kshatriya life have practically been abolished. Since India has become dependent on foreign countries, the particular influences of her social orders have been lost. Now, according to the scriptures, everyone is a Shudra. The so-called Brahmanas, Kshatriyas and Vaishyas have forgotten their traditional activities, and in the absence of these activities, they are called Shudras. It is said in the scriptures, Kalau Shudra Sambhava. In the age of Kali, everyone will be like Shudras. The traditional social customs are not followed in this age, although formally they were followed strictly. Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purport. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Nishalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshna Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Nam Namaste Saraswate Devi Nirvishesha Shunyavadi. Take the key. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim. Yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam. Yat kripatamaham vande Paramananda Madhavam. Yat kripatamaham vande Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa Pya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So this chapter describes the marriage of Kardamuni and Devahuti. Devahuti is the daughter of the emperor Swayambhuva Manu. She is born in a very, very rich family. And she is being offered in marriage by her father to a rishi, Kardama Muni, who was staying in the forest in very, very simple, humble circumstances. So Kardama Muni looks like a poverty-stricken person. And Devahuti, the daughter of Swayambhuva Manu, is born and is raised in a palatial opulence. Yet, the scriptural directions are, as Prabhupada points out in the purport. Thank you. As Srila Prabhupada points out in the purport, the first class process, as described in the Vedic scriptures, is to call the bridegroom to the home of the bride and hand her to him in charity with a dowry of necessary ornaments, gold, furniture, and other household paraphernalia. This generally happens when the girl is married to a suitable boy. Kshatriya marriages would take place between Kshatriyas. Kshatriya boy and Kshatriya girl. Brahmanas would generally marry Brahmana boy, Brahmana girl. Vaishyas would marry Vaishya boy and Vaishya girl. But the father of Devahuti, Swayambhuva, has chosen to marry his daughter to one Brahmana Rishi. So such marriage is also sanctioned in the scriptures. So Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, the Manusmriti mentions 8 kinds of marriages which are sanctioned in the scriptures. out of these 8 types of marriages, what is now current, as Srila Prabhupada points out, is Brahma or Rajasika marriage. That's the only kind of marriage that is current. And specifically, the Shastra says 3 other kinds of marriage which were permitted and sanctioned in the earlier yugas. In Kali Yuga, it is forbidden 3 kinds of marriage. By love, marriage by exchange of garlands, or by kidnapping the bride. They were allowed in earlier yugas, but it is forbidden in Kali Yuga. And Srila Prabhupada even mentions, formerly Kshatriyas would simply kidnap a princess from another royal house, and there would be a fight. Not always, but sometimes, many times. There would be a fight between the Kshatriya and the girl's family members. And then if the kidnapper was the winner of the fight, then the girl would be offered to him for marriage. And that's how Krishna married Rukmini. Even Krishna's grandson, Aniruddha. Was it Aniruddha? No, Samba. He married Duryodhana's daughter by trying to kidnap her. But before he could kidnap her, actually, before he could take her away, the girl's parents and all the members of the Kuru family, they intercepted and arrested this boy, Samba. And then there was a big fight. There was to be a fight between the Yadus and the Kurus, but Balaram settled it. And then the girl was married to Samba. Duryodhana's daughter was married to Samba, Krishna's grandson. But that was in the former ages, and now such marriages are not possible because Kshatriya life has practically been abolished. There are no more Kshatriyas following the principles of Kshatriya Dharma. Varnashrama Dharma means the society is divided into 4 social classes and 4 spiritual classes. For the Brahmanas, there are 4 spiritual orders. Brahmachari, Ashram, Grihasthashram, Vanaprasthashram, Sannyasashram. For the Kshatriya, there are only 3 ashrams. Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha. For the Vaishyas, there are only 2 ashrams recommended. Brahmachari ashram and Grihastha ashram. For the Shudras, only 1 ashram. Grihastha ashram. And below the Shudras, the 5th class, 6th class, 7th class, etc., lower class people, they don't follow any of these ashram rules and regulations. They are generally considered outcast. They are not permitted to live in civilized society. Civilized society means they follow the rules. Shudras even follow the rules of Shudra Dharma. So since now in Kali Yuga, as Srila Prabhupada says, according to the scriptures, in Kali Yuga, everyone is a Shudra. Now, this statement is very much hurting for some people. How can you say that? Everyone is a Shudra in Kali Yuga. So, according to scriptures, Janmana Jayate Shudra Samskarat Bhaved Vijaha Veda Pathat Bhaved Vipra Brahman Janati iti Brahmanaha. If somebody has to be called a Brahmana, then he has to go through the Samskaras. By birth, everyone is born a Shudra. Only by Samskara one can be called a Dvija. So, in Shudra families, formerly, there were no Samskaras being followed, except very, very few. Only that marriage Samskara was followed. So therefore only Grihastha Ashrama for them. But Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, so many Samskaras. So therefore the Brahmana, Kshatriyas and Vaishyas go through the Samskaras to become what is called as Dvija. Particularly the second birth or the cultural birth. They undergo the Samskaras. Basically, they receive the sacred thread. The Vaishyas, the Kshatriyas and Brahmanas receive a sacred thread, and they go to a Gurukul to learn from a Guru, to get educated, to get trained, both materially and spiritually. The education and training is given, both, by the Guru, by the bona fide, qualified spiritual master. Even Krishna and Balaram went to the Gurukul of Sandipani Muni. And even Nanda Maharaj, he performed the samskara for Krishna and Balaram. So, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, they follow the samskara. Samskarat bhaved vijaha. So they all twice born, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas. Now where is this second birth? It's practically become extinct. Even if some ritual is done, it is merely a ritual. Who goes to Gurukul now after the sacred thread ceremony? So like this, in Kali Yuga, because there is lack of samskara, therefore Kalau Shudra Sambhava. Prabhupada quotes here. It is said in the scriptures, Kalau Shudra Sambhava. In this age of Kali, everyone will be like Shudras. Which means that in this age, the traditional social customs are not followed. So what is the result of not following the Vedic scriptures or the customs, traditional customs? That people become degraded more and more and more and more. And we can see the degradation. Even in this holy land of Bharatvarsha, you can see so much degradation is happening. And the influence of Kali is also such that Kali dosha nidhe rajan. In the Bhagavatam, Shukadeva Goswami clearly says this Kali Yuga is full of so many defects, so many faults. To the extent that he says the number of faults, you cannot easily count them. Ocean of faults. Too many faults are there. But Shukadeva Goswami particularly highlights, and that is also stressed in the Bhagavatam particularly. Asti hyeko mahan gunaha. There is one great quality in Kali Yuga. Kirtanad eva Krishnasya mukta sanga param vrajit. Simply by performing Krishna Kirtana, one can become freed from the evil influence of Kali and can get ultimate liberation. Param vrajit, can go back to Godhead. Even in the Kali Santarana Upanishad, it's particularly mentioned, the Hare Krishna mantra is mentioned, and it is said, iti shodashakam namnam kali kalmasha nashanam. That Kali dosha nidhe, as it is said, is very easy to purify oneself of all defects simply by kirtanad eva Krishnasya. Similarly, in the Kali Santarana Upanishad, it says, iti shodashakam namnam kali kalmasha nashanam. These 16 words, Hare Krishna mantra, Maha mantra, not just mantra, can actually destroy all the evil influences of Kali. And Srila Prabhupada proved this. In the beginning, Srila Prabhupada got some hippie boys and even some girls to actually become his yoga students. That time Prabhupada went to America, so many yoga teachers had already gone before Prabhupada, and they were teaching, mainly they were teaching Hatha Yoga. Though Hatha Yoga is not recommended in Kali Yuga, but still they were teaching Yogasana, Pranayama, Dhyana, etc. So it had become almost like a fashion for people to try to learn some yoga and then practice that, and for whatever purpose or reason. So these hippies, when Prabhupada performed Kirtan in the park, Tompkinson Square Park, so many people, they were curiously onlookers. Prabhupada performed Kirtan for 3 hours, 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. So onlookers, they were very curious. This elderly Indian gentleman is performing. He is singing very nicely. Prabhupada had a very melodious voice. So he's singing very nicely, and they were standing and hearing. And when Prabhupada finished 3 hours of Kirtan, he just got up and walked away. So some boys and girls began to follow him immediately, running behind him. Swamiji, can you teach us yoga? Prabhupada said, yes. Of course, Prabhupada did not teach them Ashtanga Yoga, which they were expecting Prabhupada to teach, Hatha Yoga. But they anyway learnt Bhakti Yoga and became first-class devotees. So they had some old habits, but they got rid of it simply by chanting Hare Krishna, by Krishna Kirtan. So Kali Kalmasha Nashanam, all the evil influence of Kali can be counteracted simply by Krishna Kirtan, chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Otherwise, this Kali Yuga full of faults, as Prabhupada points out, all these forbidden kinds of marriage are very much current even now. Even though Prabhupada says only one process of marriage is current, that was during Prabhupada's time maybe. Now even the others are so much current. Marriage by love, by exchange of garlands, by kidnapping the girl, either kidnap or they elope, the boy and the girl run away from home or secretly get married, live together, whatever. So these types of marriage are definitely going to result in degradation of the quality of life. In this age, people are not, mostly people are not conversant what is the aim of life. Athato Brahma Jignasa. The scriptures clearly say, now that we got human form of life, our only business is Brahma Jignasa, inquire into spiritual subject matter. But that is practically abolished or gone. It's vanished. Not abolished, it's vanished. It's gone. Nobody is most people are not interested in spiritual subject matter. Or there are so many bogus philosophers, bogus gurus, bogus systems of practicing yoga or studying some philosophy. So many bogus systems. So this is the result of the degradation set in by Kali Yuga characteristics. But Prabhupada and all our previous acharyas, they are here to reverse this degradation and elevate everyone to the highest perfection of Krishna consciousness by a simple method of this chanting Hare Krishna. So, as is clearly taught in the Bhagavatam, that Shrinvatam Swakatha Krishnaha Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyantasto hi abhadrani vidunoti surutsatam. All the dirty things in the heart is completely cleansed simply by hearing Krishna Katha, the descriptions of Krishna in the Bhagavatam or the teachings of Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, or even just the name of Krishna in the form of this Hare Krishna mantra. Simply by hearing and then eventually learning to chant. So chanting and hearing, or hearing and chanting, one can achieve the highest perfection. So this Bhagavatam and even the Bhagavad Gita, it is declared, Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha dridhavrataha namasyantascha mam bhaktya nitya yukta upasate. So Krishna declares his pure devotees, their characteristics. Because he is teaching pure devotion, he is instructing everyone to practice pure devotional service. So therefore he is telling the characteristics of pure devotional service is Satatam Kirtayantoma. So throughout the Gita, this instruction is given. Ananyas Chintayanto Mam, Satatam Kirtayanto Mam. Mam Chayo Avyabhicharena Bhakti Yogena Sevat. So in the recommendation in the Gita is not simply some ritual of practicing some religious principles. No. That may be there in the Karma Kanda or the Jnana Kanda section of the Vedas. But that is meant for a higher purpose, to bring them to the point of bhakti, Bhakti cannot be practiced by anybody who is faithless. This is clearly told in the Bhagavad Gita. Ashraddhadhana purusha dharmasyasya parantapa aprapyamam nivartante mrityu samsara vartman. Those who are faithless, ashraddhadhana purusha, they can't take to the process of bhakti. Though it's very easy. Process of bhakti is very easy. But those who are faithless, they cannot practice bhakti. So faith is created through two processes, the gradual process and the direct process. Prabhupada explains this in the 12th chapter. Written elaborate purports for explaining this. 12th chapter, verses 8 to 12. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 5 verses. Clearly Krishna outlines both the gradual process of elevation to Krishna consciousness or bhakti and the direct process. So Prabhupada says, Krishna particularly recommends the direct process. Because in this age, the indirect process is not effective. Indirect process is begin with renunciation of the fruits of action, leading to karma yoga, then to jnana yoga, then to ashtanga yoga, then to bhakti yoga. It's a very, very slow, gradual process. It generally takes millions of lifetimes, this gradual process. Because the advancement is very, very, very slow. Whereas the direct process, even once somebody is able to chant the Hare Krishna mantra purely, immediately all perfection is achieved. The example is given in the Bhagavatam that Ajamila, the example of Ajamila is often quoted. Even Shukadeva Goswami says to Parikshit that of all the processes of self-realization, bhakti is the best, most effective, very powerful. So many ways he glorifies bhakti, the process of bhakti yoga. And then he says, in this connection, there is a particular historical incident mentioned in the scriptures. Shukadeva Goswami is quoting scriptures and telling about the Ajamila Upakhyana. So briefly he narrates the story of Ajamila and then highlights how Ajamila had become very, 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 very sinful. Though born in a very nice Brahmana family and trained up, first class training he had received as a Brahmana. And he was situated as a Brahmana very nicely. He had a chaste wife and he had his respectable parents, and he was living a very, very nice Brahminical life. But somehow he got contaminated and he became degraded. And Krishna saved him by inspiring him within his heart to name his youngest son as Narayana. And it doesn't end there. Krishna also gave him the intelligence to call his son Narayana, 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 Narayana. What happens if the child has got a long name? They will shorten that long name and call him by a short 2-syllable name. Incidentally, I had a friend by name Narayan, my classmate and my close friend. So first time I got introduced to him, I went to his house to call him for playing. And his mother opened the door, so I said, Narayan, I want to call him for playing. So his mother, Tillu! Aja! He was from a Punjabi family. So his mother called him Tillu. So I didn't know his name was, he was called Tillu in his house. So I said, you're called as Tillu in your house, is it? हाँ, my name actually in the school is Narayan. But घर में क्या बुलाते हैं? Tillu. You all know this. There's nothing new for you. So, fortunately, even my grandfather's name was Narayan, but he was called Nani. That's the way the Narayan name is shortened in Karnataka. Okay, I'm from Karnataka. So he was also not called Narayan. He was called Nani. So calling Nani is not going to save anybody. You don't get the benefit of calling out the holy name of the Supreme Lord. Whereas, what did Ajamila do? He didn't shorten the name. He called his son with the 4 syllables. That's exactly what the Vishnu Dutas are telling the Yamadutas. Read carefully. The Vishnu Dutas is telling it is enough that even though he was very sinful, he uttered the 4 syllables, Narayana. And that's enough for his purification of all sinful reactions. He is not only freed from the sinful reactions committed in this life, for the sins committed in this life, he is freed from reactions he is committed in millions of lives. So that is very, very shocking to hear. So Parikshit asked so many questions based on this. You see? Prabhupada says Parikshit is the most intelligent king of his time. So the questions he asked Shukadeva Goswami are the most intelligent questions. Most intelligent questions. So we should carefully study the Bhagavatam, not only what Shukadeva Goswami spoke, but also note down the questions which Parikshit asked. It's the most intelligent questions he has asked. There's an entire chapter in the Bhagavatam, very interesting. Bhagavatam is a very interesting scripture. It's different from all other scriptures. In millions of ways it is different. There's a chapter, 8th chapter of the 2nd canto, Questions by King Parikshit. How long can I go on? Radha Priya. 10 more minutes, okay. 8th chapter of the 2nd canto, the title of the chapter is Questions by King Parikshit. The first question King Parikshit asks is in the 1st canto, 19th chapter. It describes the meeting of Parikshit and Shukadeva Goswami. So Parikshit asks 2 questions only. And Shukadeva Goswami answers them. Then Parikshit asks more questions about creation. Then Shukadeva Goswami answers them also. So 2nd canto, 1st, 2nd, 3rd chapter are the answers given by Shukadeva Goswami for the first 2 questions of Parikshit. Then when Shukadeva Goswami has completed answering the first 2 questions, then Parikshit asks questions about creation. So Shukadeva Goswami answers them in 4, 5, 6 and 7. Then 8th chapter begins with Parikshit asking because he's completed answering whatever questions Parikshit asked. So more questions. But the 8th chapter is filled with questions. Because then he doesn't ask just one or few more questions. He asks a whole lot of questions. As if the questions he has asked is not enough, he ends his questions by asking one final thing. Please kindly answer all the questions I have asked you. And also tell me about those things which I might not have asked you, but which is important for me to know. So what is left for Shukadeva Goswami? To not say everything he has to say, what is important. And exactly Shukadeva Goswami does that justice. You see, after that 8th chapter, the rest of the Bhagavatam, Shukadeva Goswami answers all the questions. And Parikshit, in between, he asks more questions. So the conversation becomes very, very interesting. You can imagine if Parikshit asked a whole lot of questions and then after that Shukadeva Goswami is going to answer for a long time. So then it will become kind of very, very hackneyed, boring. So the conversation becomes interesting when Parikshit interrupts Shukadeva Goswami and asks more questions. Just like Parikshit is, Shukadeva Goswami is describing the different incarnations of the Supreme Lord. He comes to the incarnation of Matsya, fish incarnation. So before he begins to describe that incarnation, Parikshit interrupts him and says, why would the Lord assume the form of a fish? Abominable creature. Abominable in what sense? Fish smells very bad. It's very dirty creature. Because it's the water, it doesn't look very dirty. But have you ever touched a fish? I have done it. Though I don't eat fish. I don't like the smell. But in our school we had this dissection of the fish to study the internal parts. So that time I had to touch the fish. It's slimy. Of course, those who eat fish, they know. And they like the smell and they like the touch also. But we vegetarians, we just don't like the smell and we don't like the touch of it also. So it is obvious that the fish is very, very abominable creature. So Parikshit's question is very interesting. He says, why would the Lord assume such a form, abominable form of a fish? So Shukadeva Goswami makes the narration very interesting. He describes how the Lord appeared as a fish. So read that, 2nd canto. The fish incarnation description appears in 8th canto, 24th chapter, the last chapter, the 8th canto. Very interesting description. So like this, Parikshit asks very interesting questions in between. Shukadeva Goswami briefly describes the Yadu dynasty. He described different dynasties because Parikshit asked, describe the different dynasties. So he describes the dynasties and he briefly mentions the important kings in the dynasty or even the appearance of the Lord in a particular dynasty. But when he describes Krishna's appearance in Yadu dynasty and briefly describes Krishna's pastimes, finishes off. The last chapter of 9th canto ends with description of the Yadu dynasty and Krishna appearing in the Yadu dynasty. So Krishna is the Supreme Lord who appeared in the Yadu dynasty as the son of Vasudeva and Devaki. So briefly he describes the activities of Krishna as the son of Vasudeva and Devaki. Immediately Parikshit begins a whole lot of questions. Why? Because Parikshit himself was saved by Krishna in his mother's womb. And he got the name Parikshit, means examiner. Why? Because after he had brief glimpse of a darshan of Krishna in his mother's womb, he came out of his mother's womb, he started examining every person. Where is that person whom I saw in my mother's womb? So every person, is he the person? Is he the person? Is he the person? Is he the person? Whoever he sees, is he the person? No, 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 no. So, in this way, he was always Krishna conscious. Because he is remembering the form of Krishna he has seen. And he wants to see again that most beautiful, attractive form of Krishna. And he is searching. Where is that person? So generally people, after certain age, they begin search for the absolute truth or Krishna, or they search for God. Parikshit, he had darshan of Krishna in his mother's womb, and that was a brief glimpse of darshan. And then his search for Krishna to again have darshan of Krishna began immediately after he came out of his mother's womb. So Parikshit's questions also are very, very interesting. That is speciality of the Bhagavatam. And Shukadeva Goswami, he answers all the questions, but he gives very, very, very brief answers. That's why our acharyas have written elaborate purports. We can't understand those short answers. Arjuna asks questions, Arjuna asks Krishna some very intelligent questions in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna gives very brief answers because Krishna has got only 45 minutes time. That's all the conversation took place. The battle is about to begin. But our acharyas have written elaborate commentaries because we can't understand. You can't understand. Arjuna was very intelligent. He could understand. But we are not as intelligent. Kalau Shudra Sambhava. So, not very intelligent. So, therefore, we require elaborate explanations, and our acharyas have given that. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommends you study only 2 scriptures. Anyway, Kali Yuga, we don't have time to study all the Vedic literature. So, just 2 scriptures are enough. Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. This contains everything. And our acharyas have written elaborate commentaries on the Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. Prabhupada also is given Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. Elaborate purports. So you study these, then you appreciate Parikshit's questions and also understand the philosophy of Krishna consciousness through the answers by Shukadeva Goswami. We'll stop here. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.